Hello and welcome to another FPL team selection video. This week we have a lot to talk about when it comes to transfers because this is a big week for Liverpool players, so we're going to talk a little bit more about who the third Liverpool player could be and if we're even going to go that route. Obviously a double game week next week and this is the time to get those guys in. But yeah, I'm going to talk about transfer plans and stuff because there is a lot to think about, especially for my team at the very least. So if you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like on it. Make sure to subscribe as well if you are new. But basically last week looking at our team was a 52 pointer, a nice green arrow at least. But obviously a disappointing captain with Cole Palmer. Just about crept into that top 1 million. I'm only 1,008 places off of it finally. But yeah, if Palmer was in form on Monday against Wolves, I would have easily made it into that top 1 million. And even after seeing Salah and Isak with their blanks, I was really optimistic, but unfortunately it just never happened. And even then Salah ended up outscoring Palmer, which was pretty shit. Overall though, the team was okay. 11 points for Trent, 4 for Hall, 8 for Bruno Fernandes was nice, a nice 12 pointer for Wood as well. Unfortunately benched Castagne, who picked up a clean sheet against Fulham, which wasn't ideal, but I feel like it was still the right move in the end. I can't actually remember who I was going to bench for him. It was going to be Gabriel actually, but then Gabriel ended up getting a 1 pointer, which wasn't great. But yeah, overall not too bad. At least we got a green arrow out of it, and obviously rolled the transfer as well last week. So as I said, a lot to talk about when it comes to transfers and stuff. But first, let's take a look at this week's fixtures. So there is quite a lot of decent fixtures on this week. I think there's actually 7 teams. I've left out Brighton because they're not really a team to look at the minute. But we've got 6 teams here. We've got Arsenal, Villa, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Liverpool and Spurs, who all have some nice fixtures for game week 23. And obviously this is kind of just what you look at when it comes to planning transfers. So obviously for Arsenal, I do still have Gabriel. He is probably going to stay in my team until the end of the season. I don't really want to get rid of him because he's one of those players that always is going to get points. And Arsenal clean sheets and potential goal threat as well. Nice fixtures. Obviously City in game week 24 isn't ideal, but you're talking 3 of the next 4 games you would hope for an Arsenal clean sheet: Wolves, Leicester, West Ham. So Gabriel wouldn't go anywhere for me. In terms of bringing anyone else in, obviously Saka still injured. There's no one really else on my radar that I would be interested in bringing in. Havertz just isn't really great for an FPL player, so happy with Gabriel, sticking with that for now. Obviously Aston Villa, a nice run over the next 3 matches: West Ham, Wolves and Ipswich. I do have Morgan Rogers, and again, don't really think I want to go anywhere else. None of the defence is really interesting me too much. And then obviously Watkins / Duran, whoever that's going to be. I think obviously with Duran back now, it is going to be a little bit more managed for Watkins' minutes. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. But again, another striker spot. He is a little bit expensive as well, which I'm not really looking to try and get him in at any time soon. Mainly talking about Watkins over Duran there. We've obviously still got the triple up with Newcastle. This is probably the last good fixture for Newcastle as well, with Southampton away before they come into a pretty difficult run of games with Fulham, Man City, Nottingham Forest and Liverpool. So again, I've been mentioning the previous weeks about Liverpool obviously having that double game week and potentially using transfers to bring in Liverpool and maybe Everton players. But I feel like at the minute I'm kind of leaning towards saving those transfers and looking to kind of move on to other players. I'll show you my watch list in a minute of players to potentially bring in over the next few weeks. But again, looking at Newcastle, I'm probably not going to want Lewis Hall, and I'm probably not going to want Anthony Gordon for that run from mainly game week 25 and on. I feel like I could hold them for game week 24, even though it's not a great fixture. It's not a terrible fixture with Fulham at home. But yeah, we'd definitely be looking to try and move them on. Isak's another one that could potentially come out if he were feeling a little bit ballsy. Palace still have a nice run with Brentford at home, United, Everton, still a good few fixtures for Crystal Palace. So no Palace players still for me at the minute. I think I've been trying to get one in, Munoz more specifically, for about the last 5 or 6 weeks, and it's just not really happening at the minute. Anytime I want to bring him in, he's got a bad fixture, and my players have good fixtures, and I'm just not really finding a way to fit him in the team right now. But he's definitely still on the watch list with nice fixtures over the next few. Liverpool, of course, we have done a lot of stuff on Liverpool over the last few weeks. If you want to see the transfer tips video from this week, there is a lot of talk on Gakpo, Diaz and Szoboszlai, so make sure you go and watch that after you've watched this one. But for me, I will speak more about my plans with the Liverpool team. And then Spurs, a nice fixture against Leicester at home, but they don't really have great fixtures after that. And of course, massive injury crisis at Spurs now, probably going to leave them alone. So as it stands, I do have 2 Liverpool players, and that's Mohamed Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Ideally, if I was to wildcard this week, I probably would add in Gakpo to that. He would be my pick of the rest of the Liverpool teams. But for me, I'm looking at my team right now. I've got 2 free transfers to use this week, and if I was to bring in someone like Gakpo, I would have him for maybe 3 or 4 games, and I would need to rip up my team to try and get him in, because I've not really got the budget to afford that right now, and I don't really want to take anyone else out. I'll show you my team in a minute and I can explain it a little bit more in detail. But in terms of keeping transfers, I think I'm going to roll my transfer again this week into 3 transfers for game week 24, and looking at upcoming games for teams that aren't really being spoke too much about, because obviously Liverpool is the main priority for a lot of players right now. Bournemouth have a really nice run from game week 25, so that's only 2 weeks away. Whether that's going to be, I've got 4 players on the watch list there: Kluivert, Semenyo and Dango Utara, I want to say his name is. Obviously Kerke is a really nice defender as well. They've got really good fixtures from game week 25 onwards. I've also got some Brentford players on my list, and that's really from this game week. Mbeumo and Wissa really looking like really good picks over the next few weeks. Again, orange and red fixtures over the next 2, but I definitely could easily see either one of them scoring against Crystal Palace, and definitely against Spurs at home, despite it being a red fixture. And then from game week 25 onwards, they've got West Ham, Leicester and Everton, so really, really nice for Brentford. Ideally, I would like both of them, but if you've been keeping an eye on the team, I've got the 2 Brentford goalkeepers, so I wouldn't be able to get both of them in. But really nice fixtures for them. Again, another transfer that I would be looking to use. I think more likely it's going to be Gordon. I've already mentioned Gordon having difficult fixtures after this week. Could bring Mbeumo in for Gordon, and that's just an easy move right there. And obviously that would save me. I wouldn't be able to do that if I was to try and fill my team up with double game week players this week, which isn't really a great double game week either. Bournemouth away and Everton away for Liverpool aren't the best fixtures in the world. Even having Mo Salah, I think, is plenty in that attack. I don't think Liverpool are going to blow either of those teams out of the water to the point where I'm going to need a second Liverpool attacker. So I think I'm going to just stick with my 2, because, again, I said I'll explain it more in a little bit. With Crystal Palace as well, again, really nice fixtures still. Mateta's still on the list, Eze, Munoz. Eze a little bit less than the other 2 because he's not one of the best 5 midfielders in my opinion, but you've still got Munoz and Matetas to still have really nice fixtures. So this is how the team is set up for this week, and again, like I said, trying to rip up the team to get in Cody Gakpo just isn't really worth it. At the minute, Gakpo's coming in at 7.5 million, and I've only got 0.2 in the bank, so Jimenez is probably the one I'd be looking at to move on. He's 5.7 million, and he doesn't have a great run of fixtures, but as you can see on the screen, he does have that possibility of a double game week in game week 25. Now, it is a very, very small possibility. I think it was Ben Crellin, he mentioned that it was about probably like a 15 to 20% chance of that becoming a double game week, depending on how the cup results go. So I'm going to hold on to him for now, but he is someone who could easily take the bench over the next couple of weeks. He is still a very, very cheap attacker. And if I was to try and save up any or free up any money, the only option for Jimenez would be Calvert-Lewin. He obviously has that double game week and scored a brace, I think, against Spurs, but it's Calvert-Lewin, and I'm not really too excited about owning him again, because I've done that earlier in the season. That was a big mistake. So trying to find any money from anyone else in the team just feels a little bit silly. I could sell Gabriel. He's obviously at Man City at home next week, but we've already talked about it at the start of the video. Like 3 of his next 4 games you could expect clean sheets. Trent's obviously got the double. He's never getting sold at this point. Hall is someone I could sell, but it's not going to be this week. He's got Southampton away from home. Them other 2 defenders, as you can see on the bench, are both, bottom of the barrel defenders. So ideally I'd like to upgrade them, so I'd need to try find more budget from elsewhere. And midfield, great. I'm happy enough with all of them. I'm not going to sell Cole Palmer, even though he's dropped in price. His fixtures aren't really that bad at all. Difficult this week against Man City, but it is still Cole Palmer. He's still on penalties. He can still get goals in any game whatsoever. So I'm not going to be selling him just to free up budget to bring in like Gakpo instead. Like that just doesn't really make sense to me. Isak's staying obviously for the Southampton game, and then Chris Wood is someone as well who I am tempted to sell. Again, this week he's playing Bournemouth. I could make the transfer from Wood to Visa and save about, I want to say like 0.7 million for that transfer, but I think this week Wood's playing against Bournemouth away and Wisa's playing against Crystal Palace away. They both could easily score in that match. There's no point in using a transfer in there. So as much as I'd like to free up budget, get in Cody Gakpo, there's just no one in the team right now that makes sense to sell. And obviously we've got this watch list of players that could come in the next few weeks, and I think it just makes sense to hold off and not rush into any FOMO or anything like that of missing out on that triple up for the double game week. So I'm happy as the way it stands with Salah and Trent for this week. I think the team is still well set out for this week. Everyone has nice fixtures apart from obviously Cole Palmer, and if there is any sort of cancellations this week or whatever because of this weather, I've got Jimenez on the bench who I think could easily do something against Man United as well. I think I'd like to start him because anytime I bench him he seems to get a goal. So if I do have a late minute transfer, last minute transfer, I probably would be Jimenez in for Morgan Rogers. But for right now, Jimenez is the one on the bench, but he is there in case I need someone if there is any cancellations, and Isak is going to be the vice captain as well. So that's my team, that's the plans for myself right now. Couple of transfers in the future in the next few weeks, just trying to build on that and not jump into anything rash with a double game week that doesn't really look extremely appealing for Liverpool. So let me know what you think down in the comments section. Again, make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.